So let's talk a little bit more about these Fed rate cuts. And it is amazing that earlier in the year, there was expectations of almost 7 rate cuts for this year. And I know you and I were both very skeptical of that. And now that's come down drastically, which again, you would think that what if it had gone the other way, where instead of expecting fewer rate cuts, we're expecting more rate cuts, what would the stock market be doing? So it's pretty staggering, really, when you think about what a reality, wake up to reality this has been, and yet it's done nothing to dissuade the or calm down the animal spirits. And then this is my famous 4F federal fiscal funding fiasco. And it was David Stockman, but also Adam, I'm sorry, not Adam Taggart, but he was on Adam Taggart when he was talking about that. But it was Michael Hartnett from B of A saying the same statistic that the U.S. government deficit is increasing $1 trillion every 100 days. And I was like, what? That can't be true. And I actually went back to our team at GovCal and asked them, and they said, yeah, that's pretty close to what it's doing right now. But even if it's 2.5 trillion, which if you look at the latest Biden budget, so the fiscal 2025, if you haven't seen this, they're projecting 7.3 trillion in spending and about 5 billion in revenue. So about a $2.3 billion deficit that they're admitting to. That's their projection. It's likely to be worse than that, and particularly if we get a recession. So when you look at the amount of bond issuance that's occurring, and to the point of Michael Howe, when it comes to the federal government this year alone, next 12 months, there has to be about 8 trillion rolled over. So bonds that mature, of course, at much higher interest rates, and then 2 to 2.5 to 3 trillion of new debt bonds to finance the deficit. So it really is a true financial fiasco in my view. And I know you don't exactly have warm feelings about this either.
No, look, I mean, it's so preposterous, Dave, that we sit here and throw these numbers out like they're nothing, right? I mean, imagine talking 10 years ago about the deficit increasing a trillion, $3.5 trillion a year. It just
Nobody would have believed this. They would have thought they'd have
no, exactly
given us
right.
one of
But
those
we're
sport
here.
coats with buttons in the back.
Yeah, right. But we're here, right? And we've got to this point, and nothing seems to matter. But I think if people listening to this take one thing away from this, it's very easy to talk about the problems out there, and it's very easy to think, well, we'll figure it out. These numbers are so big, there will be a way around this. I think the important thing for people to understand is to be aware of the problems and be aware of what could potentially go wrong. Because all the time markets are going up, none of this stuff matters. But at some point it's going to matter. That number, that 100 trillion every 100 days, what if it's 100 trillion over 50 days? Will that matter? I would suspect it might. Somewhere out there, there is a Rubicon that these numbers are going to begin to kind of topple over. And being aware of where the pressure points are, of where the kind of numbers that are going to matter are, I think are the key to making sure that you're not one of those guys who says, yeah, I understand all this, but I'm going to ride this and I'm just going to get off like Bugs Bunny does to jump out the elevator right before it hits the ground. And I think we're in that. Despite what you think, the elevator is falling, and everybody's just thinking, I can step out before we hit to the ground. And there are so many major difficulties that we are expecting monetary policymakers to navigate for us, because they have done successfully for the most part for 25, 30, 40 years. We go back to Greenspan. I just don't think it's going to work out as easily this time.